Tonight, we've got an update on the wildfire threatening the communities of Wells and Barkerville. Plus, a look back at the last year for the Prince George Airport with some positive numbers to show. And last week saw unprecedented storms locally, that according to a UNBC professor. Good evening, I'm Eddie Huband and welcome to CKPG News. We begin tonight with what's been top of mind for most British Columbians, wildfires. Starting with the latest update from the Antler Creek fire, the source of anxiety for many right now in the region. The fire has appeared to grow beyond the 3,300 hectares originally predicted. But there is hope for those who call both Barkerville and Wells home. Cheryl Jan reports.
The monster wildfire, as it has been referred to, southwest of Wells and Barkerville, is not showing signs of abating, though Mother Nature is cooperating a bit.
We did receive some precipitation and we did have lightning that rolled through. Again, it was followed by rain. And so we have weather stations and rain gauges set out within the complex, and those are going to be checked. So we'll be able to see how much precipitation the wildfires did receive. We do have aircraft that are going to be flying in the area just to make sure that if there are any new starts caused by the lightning last night, that they're actioned quickly.
For the chair of the board for the heritage site that is Barkerville, this is not a comfortable place to be right now, especially with that fire reaching within 3 kilometers of that community. But efforts to date have seemed to help.
We've got ash and we've got debris coming down on the site, but with the sprinklers that were provided, the funding was provided this year by the ministry to put the sprinklers on the buildings to protect them in the event of something like this. With those being installed and the additional sprinkler protection units that have been brought in by BC Wildfire, the site is fairly down.
The Minister for Emergency Management says she is acutely aware of the Antler Creek fire and has no trouble throwing whatever resources are necessary to curb its progress.
When it comes to responding to emergencies, both the BC Wildfire Service and the Ministry of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness is able to spend whatever it takes to respond. Now, sometimes the challenge is not money, it is access to physical people and physical assets.
And while BC Wildfire has struggled to get a full picture of the blaze due to the smoke in the area, Al Richmond says he's confident.
There's a bit of sigh of relief, but a lot of apprehension, but also at the same time optimistic that maybe there is some light at the end of the tunnel. And we have to rely on those folks from, again, the BC Wildfire Service who are really great at their jobs to figure out how they're going to deal with this. And we know that, defending Barkerville and defending Wells is key to their mandate to try and keep things alive.
A new incident command team will be on site to relieve those currently there. Cheryl Jan, CKPG News.
And Valemount's emergency support services were stressed to the breaking point when thousands of evacuees from Jasper were forced westward into the small village. But with the help of volunteers, Valemount managed to welcome them with open arms.
The Regional District Fraser Fort George opened up their doors of the Canoe Valley Rec Center, which is our hockey rink, allowing people to get out of the elements. We had quite the deluge of thunder and lightning and rain last night as well. Hats off to the volunteers, Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, Minister Ma, MLA Shirley Bond, all coming to the table to ensure that we had the best resources while still dealing with evacuees from another province.
And it's not just Valemount. Prince George has also welcomed around 100 evacuees from Jasper overnight. These evacuees are being welcomed at the Emergency Reception Center at the Kin Center, as Prince George is one of 3 BC locations for Jasper evacuees to stop and rest as needed. Prince George Emergency Support Services says support is available for all evacuees who need it. But Prince George is meant to be a stepping stone to get people to evacuation centers in Alberta, like Grande Prairie and Calgary.
We're looking to receive that evacuee, that family, whatever the case may be, and determine how can we support you to get back to where you need to be or on to your next location, or if Prince George is going to be your home for a little while, how do we support you in being here? We're providing a little bit of respite here, a safe space to charge your phone, connect to your family, figure out your next movement, and then again helping those folks get back to Alberta.
A big sigh of relief for people living just outside Fort St. James. The Regional District of Bulkley-Nechako have lifted the evacuation alert for the Pitka Creek fire, which is now classified as being held. The evacuation alert covered 548 properties. And we will bring in Adam Burles now for more on this, what's been a wild day on the wildfire front. Adam, I want to start with the Pitka wildfire that I just mentioned. What's the latest with that situation? It's some good news here.
Yes, good for sure. We told you yesterday that Northern Health was taking some folks out of the hospital and long-term as a precaution. Well, now we have word from BC Wildfire Service that the fire is now being held, so they're not expecting it to grow beyond its current perimeter. And measuring about 147 hectares in size and holdings, which is good news. It hasn't grown to the north, which is where the fire is located. It's just off of Highway 27, just heading north through Fort St. James. So some good news there. Evacuation alert has been lifted, so folks won't have to be ready to go at a moment's notice. And you also got to think that the rain that came through our region, came through much of northern BC yesterday, did help with those, with the decision to remove that alert for sure.
And touching on the rain, from a broader sense, I mean, obviously storms are kind of a double-edged sword because with rain comes lightning, which can be a problem. But is the precipitation going to make any kind of a dent here on the wildfire front?
Well, any bit of precipitation always helps. And for our region, looking at the BC Wildfire Service precipitation map, just before I came on the desk here, and it looks like our region got about anywhere between 10 to 25 millimeters of rain. So that's good news. And like I said, it's not just a trace amount of precipitation. Anywhere between 10 to 25 millimeters is great. You need that, especially right now when the ground is so dry, and it has been drying for essentially 3 weeks when we were in that prolonged heat wave. So will it make a dent? I sure hope so. We will need to see some more sustained rain for sure to see the impacts of that. But it's hard. It's obviously hard to tell just a day or so out. Pardon me. But any bit always helps.
And what about the forecast looking ahead? Is there more rain to come in the next coming days, the next coming weeks?
There is. Yeah, there is rain in the forecast again, which is good news, and cooler temperatures too. So like when we had that prolonged heat wave, everything was drying out. So when it does rain over the next couple of days, we're looking at particularly Wednesday, Thursday, where that rain's going to be, and then maybe some, not so much on Friday, Saturday, but then kind of we're going to see some more chances of precipitation into early next week. So when it's cooler temperatures like we've been seeing today, I don't think it got into the 20s today in Prince George. So when it's cooler like that, it helps keep the ground wet and moist.
So some mild good news there on the wildfire front, but clearly a lot going on for our firefighters, to deal with. Adam Burles, thank you very much for that update. So Prince George and the area has seen evacuees from Jasper, as well as other nearby areas like Barkerville and Wells, as mentioned. And despite the widespread threat of wildfires, some in Prince George aren't hitting the panic button and staying cautiously optimistic. Have a look.
At this point, I feel relatively safe, waiting for the other shoe to drop, but relatively safe at this point. They came up to Williams Lake once before and didn't hit us. So.
Every year we prepare an emergency kit in case we have to get up and go. So we have extra gas, we have water, we have food, everything prepared in case we need to move in a hurry. So we've been pretty conscious with my family just for safety because over the last few years we've seen the impacts throughout the country.
Obviously, I'm concerned about all my fellow members of my community and what's going on around me, but I obviously can't every single day wake up and be concerned about what's going to happen. Maybe it's going to happen, or I'm not sure if it's going to happen, or so I just live my life every single day and hope that those wildfires that are happening right now are being dealt with as best as our community can do that.
And a quick disclaimer here, with wildfire season in full swing, CKPG would like to remind you what to do in case of a wildfire emergency. The BC Wildfire Service recommends creating an emergency plan to prepare you and your household in case of a disaster. As part of that plan, pre-register for emergency support services before you need help. Make a master contact list of friends, family, neighbors, employees, and make sure everyone has a copy. Also be sure to have a grab-and-go bag handy, including items such as water, a phone charger, extra batteries, a first aid kit, cash, toiletries, and also copies of important documents. For more information on how to prepare for an emergency, go to our website, ckpgtoday.ca, and hit the Wildfires tab. In other news, it seems that lately every night the heavens have been opening up and the region has been subjected to major storms, including heavy rainfall, thunder, and lightning. And according to a local climatologist at UNBC, this recent weather has been unprecedented.
The yellow and red masses moving across the screen represent stormy weather over the region, none of which is a surprise to those of us who live here. But what is a surprise comes from UNBC climatologist Dr. Joseph Shea, who referred to the most recent spate of storms in these parts as unprecedented.
Really, I don't think we've seen a setup like this in British Columbia since I've been here, and I've been in and around the province for the last 20 years. I think the conditions yesterday were absolutely primed for this massive line of thunderstorms that rolled through the central interior and the northeast, and I don't think we've seen conditions like that before.
It was a sentiment echoed by storm watcher and longtime resident of Wells, Joey Only.
Their characteristics were much more intense than we're used to seeing in British Columbia. Last night, through the Peace and into parts of the Caribbean, we had convective available potential energies, the ability for thunderstorms to just explode in growth and not have anything to stop them. There was no real atmospheric cap keeping them down. Instead, they just got as big as they wanted and did whatever they wanted to do, and they're capable of doing anything, right?
He says in a 30-minute stretch, there were over 4,500 lightning strikes, and Joseph Shea says that is not common weather for this region.
There's been studies on lightning across Canada, right? And BC is like a dead zone. Compared to the rest of Canada, we don't get a lot of lightning, we don't get a lot of thunderstorms. I had a meteorology professor in my undergrad say, this is where storms come to die. Like they come off the Pacific and they kind of peter out when they hit the mountains. So yesterday's setup was really, and it's a word that's overused now, but it's unprecedented.
He says it's tough to nail down the chicken or the egg question. What came first, the storms or the fires?
Well, I mean, the fires have been sort of popping up since May in and around the province. But with the recent heat dome, I call it a heat dome, it was the same idea. It was a giant high pressure system that created all this heat across the province. We started to see forests dry out, and then we started to get the pop-up thunderstorms that triggered a bunch of the wildfires. So, places that have been evacuated now, those were wildfires that are almost certainly caused by lightning that happened in the last week.
He says this weather phenomena will likely be the source of many studies well into the future. Cheryl Jan, CKPG News.
It was a good year in 2023 for YXS, Prince George's Airport, as passenger numbers and revenue were up from 2022. Adam Burles has more now on the year in review for YXS.
YXS Prince George Airport has been busy in 2023 with added capacity on existing routes and the reintroduction of the seasonal nonstop flight to Puerto Vallarta, among other highlights. And in terms of passenger numbers, YXS is starting to see a bounce back in traffic.
We finished just under 418,000 passengers in and out of this airport. I think we're slowly getting back to those pre-COVID numbers, probably be another couple of years, but it's really encouraging to see that growth. And our revenue numbers as well are slowly getting back to those pre-COVID numbers.
YXS saw a 15% increase in passenger numbers over 2022. However, the aviation industry as a whole is still facing challenges that directly and indirectly affects our airport.
It's still going to be another 3 to 5 years before you're back to those full numbers, particularly with air crew. And we are seeing production of aircraft come back online, but still you've got to have the crew and you've got to have the maintenance techs. And the shortage of air traffic controllers is another issue that's going to take a little bit longer to get back to those numbers.
WestJet's nonstop flight to Puerto Vallarta did well last year, and it will be returning again this winter season. And YXS is also looking to add additional routes.
We always want to have better options for the folks that live in the region in terms of that connectivity. It's such a key piece when you live in northern or remote communities. We're also exploring potential of Vegas. I think it has to be twice a week for Vegas to really work. And also down the road, perhaps some seasonal transcontinental service as our airline partners start to expand their networks back to those pre-COVID levels.
As well as hoping to attract new routes from airlines, YXS is also hoping to attract a growing airline that is providing competition for Air Canada and WestJet in other parts of the country.
Porter Airlines has been really aggressive in terms of the aircraft that they're purchasing and then how they're going to use them. So we're always looking at those opportunities.
Adam Burles, CKPG News.
Mosquitoes and black flies are a huge nuisance when experiencing the great outdoors, but thankfully there's a pretty great solution in the form of bug spray. Have you heard of it? Well, Sam Benison has more on this week's To Your Health.
And now To Your Health, brought to you by Hard Drugs, 3rd Avenue Pharmacy, and the Phoenix Pharmacy.
Mosquitoes are not just a nuisance, but can also lead to diseases, even in Canada. Bug repellent can keep them off, but what should you choose?
Some of the repellents actually are toxic to insects, so like you'll find like permethrin impregnated mosquito nets and that sort of thing. They're actually toxic to the bugs, so the bugs will sort of stay away or potentially die if they encounter them.
If you're looking for a spray, there is DEET and a keratin. DEET works by making it harder for bugs to smell humans and bite them. While DEET can be used for adults, Jason says a keratin is recommended for kids 6 months old to reduce any risks that are associated with DEET, such as neurological disorders. And in addition, it's longer lasting.
Icaritin is a very common one now. 20% Icaritin lasts for about 8 hours, whereas the strongest DEET that you can find is about 30%, and it only lasts for about 4 to 6 hours.
When applying bug repellent, it's recommended to do it 15 minutes before you're exposed to bugs.
Just to sort of make sure you've got everything covered and make sure it's sort of soaked into your skin and that sort of thing, right? Like if you're applying it on your arm here and they're biting you over there, it's just kind of better to be slightly prepared.
Both swimming and sweating can wash off bug spray, but it is important not to reapply too many times, as it could irritate your skin. Sam Benison, CKPG News.
To Your Health, brought to you by Hard Drugs, 3rd Avenue Pharmacy, and the Phoenix Pharmacy.
The lowest gas price in Prince George is sitting at $1.64.9 per liter at Costco. The lowest price in the province right now is in Kimberley at $1.57.9 per liter. Manitoba has the lowest fuel prices on average in the country at $1.42.6 per liter, while BC has an average price of $1.75.6 per liter.
CKPG Sports is delivered by Domino's. Join the Domino's Lunch Club with 25% off all regular price pizzas every day. Visit domino's.ca to join the club.
The Prince George Spruce Kings have added another piece on the back end as the team has announced the commitment of defenseman Jaden Connors. Connors is a Toronto native who played last season with the St. Michael's Buzzers of the Ontario Junior Hockey League. In 46 games, he put up 2 goals and 21 assists in 46 games, He also added a goal and 2 assists in 10 playoff games. The 17-year-old stands at 5'10", he weighs in at 170 pounds, and he will join a list of committed Spruce Kings to post-secondary hockey, as Connors is headed to the University of New Hampshire following his time in the BCHL. The TSX is down 59 points to close at 22,814. The Dow Jones is down 57 points to close at 40,358. And CN Rail went down $2.59 to close at $165.35.
Good evening, everybody. As we take a quick look at the satellite imagery for you, you'll see exactly why we have that bit of a mixed bag sun and cloud day today. As you see the clouds coming over, of course, the haze from the wildfire smoke also playing a factor in what we saw outside today in the Prince George area. Our futurecast does show a chance of a precipitation, a bit of a shower, 60% chance if we see some overnight showers tonight, and that could continue into tomorrow morning. We'll have to wait and see exactly how that develops, but you can see it coming here off the coast. It does hit us, and it is something we are keeping an eye on for the extended forecast into the middle of the week and towards the weekend. Highs for tomorrow across British Columbia here in Prince George, aiming for about 19. It gets warmer down in the interior and Kamloops at 28. 31 still in Kelowna. Above us, Fort St. John also at 19 degrees for tomorrow. The highs here more in the broadcast region. There you see Prince George 19, Vanderhoof 17 and some showers, Fort St. James 17, McBride 22 and Quesnel 20 degrees. So a little bit lower than what we've been seeing of late, but a little bit closer to seasonal for us. Highs across the country. Tomorrow, Toronto 26, Montreal 27, 24 in Halifax. Over here in BC, down on the coast, 21 in Vancouver and 20 degrees up in Yellowknife. Looking ahead, that's that ridge coming in off the coast that's giving us the bit of a change in what we've seen weather-wise, the pattern switching, starting to cool off here for BC. It will begin to heat up again back towards the end of the week, which is a trend you'll start to see in our extended forecast coming up here in just a sec. Burns Lake, 9 degrees overnight tonight, before getting up to 17 and 21. Still a little bit of chance of showers. There's that pattern that's coming in later in the week, bringing potential showers for Sunday. Those overnight lows, though, getting down to 7 and even 4 degrees on Friday, so a little bit more of a chilly night. That'll let the heat escape from the day and really let people cool down, which will be a nice change. In Mackenzie, 8 degrees overnight tonight, 19 tomorrow, 21 on Thursday before it begins to heat up again, 23, 25. Again, Sunday is that next day where we're potentially a system coming through, 67% chance of precipitation on Sunday before a nice sunny day for the start of your next work week. McBride, 10 degrees overnight. Again, the rain more coming in the middle of the week for them. Thursday, Friday, a chance, and then a little bit nicer for their weekend. And then again, a system rolling through to start next week. Again, those highs heating up again for the weekend, 25, 26 on Saturday and on Sunday. For Quesnel, 9 degrees overnight tonight before a couple of days of rain with those highs sitting right around the 20-degree mark. Friday, Saturday, your nicest days of the week, unquestionably at 24 and 27. Again, overnight lows dipping down below 10, which is why our heat warnings have officially lapsed here in the region. And then that system moving in Saturday or Sunday and into Monday for you as well in Quesnel. And for us here in Prince George, 9 degrees overnight tonight. Tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday, you have that chance of precipitation, those highs right around the 20-degree mark. Friday, Saturday, the best days of the week if you want to get out and enjoy the area, 23 and 25 respectively. Again, that system moving in on Sunday, but Monday looking good for the start of our next work week.
CKPG Sports is delivered by Domino's. Join the Domino's Lunch Club with 25% off all regular price pizzas every day. Visit domino's.ca to join the club.
The Prince George Senior Men's Baseball League is back in action tonight as the Mariners take on the Blue Jays. It's been a tale of two seasons for these teams. The Mariners sit only 1 game behind first place. They have a good record of 8-5. They sit second in runs scored and runs against with a differential of +5. For the Blue Jays, it's been tough sledding as they're 5th with a record of 1-11-1. They also sit at the bottom of the standings for runs scored with 40 and runs against with 89. Those aren't good numbers. The last time these two teams faced off was on July 18th when the Mariners took that game by a score of 11-0. First pitch is scheduled for 7 o'clock tonight at Citi Field. And it's time for some highlights. Tonight we take you out to the ball game where 3 baseball players show how far they can send a baseball. You can judge which home run was the best in tonight's CKP3.
Let's start in Miami where an Oppo Taco is served.
Fly ball hit well to left field. Back goes De La Cruz to the track at the wall. It's out of here! Francisco Lindor goes the other way for his second home run of the night.
Francisco Lindor sends that ball flying the opposite direction, just inching its way over the wall. Shout out to the fan on that sweet catch. Next, Bryce Bong.
And that ball is crushed deep to right field, and the Phillies are on the board. It's a 2-run home run for Harper. It's his second one of this road trip. I mean, that went far. It may have gone out of the ballpark on a bounce and a few rolls.
Bryce Harper got all of that baseball. So much so, that dinger was recorded as his hardest hit all season out of the park. Finally, home run champ stays on top.
The spray pattern is a lot tighter.
High drive, left field, tie game. Teoscar Hernandez halfway up the pavilion.
No home run derby slump for Teoscar Hernandez. He smacks his 21st ball over the wall as Blue Jays fans shake their heads. Teoscar takes top spot in tonight's CKP3.
That's all for tonight, folks. Thanks for joining us. We will see you tomorrow.